Hello, I am Anawultus, and today I'm going to give you a little bit of a minor tutorial on some things relating to the game FreeOrion, which is a game that I very much enjoy. I find it very enjoyable, but depending on what computer you have, it could get a lot of end-turn lag towards the late game. But anyway, the reason I'm doing this today is because I didn't really see that many new games on the Wildfire Games forum to do on 0AD, so I decided to mix things up a little bit once in a while. So, the first thing that you're going to notice when starting a game, you could quick start, but I prefer to go through the detailed options a bit. So you go to single player, and you might notice there's a seed, and the seed is going to determine sort of generally what you're going to have in your galaxy. So it's best to just randomize the seed so that you're not playing on the same map at the same time. So let's just give it a few clicks. There we go. And the systems, that's going to be important later. In FreeOrion, it's a space-based game, so you're going to find various star systems around the galaxy. And that is going to be very important strategically, as you will be seeing in a couple minutes. The galaxy shape it generally just decides how the generation options go. Ring, that's an interesting one. Perhaps I should do that. I haven't really done a ring yet. So I'll go do a ring. Galaxy maturity, that really influences the age of stars and a few other things. A lot of these options won't make too much of an impact on gameplay, although they do increase the chance of seeing certain things or not seeing other things. So you've got planet density. Some people like to have a lot of planets. Some people like to have very few planets. So I'll just keep things on medium for now. Specials, we're going to be seeing those in a minute. Monsters. So there are space-borne entities, and they are known as monsters, and this determines how often you're going to see them. Native frequency, there are some cultures that don't really travel in space, and they just keep to their own planets, and this indicates the frequency that you're going to be seeing. Max AI aggression, that is how aggressive the AI is. And oh, put on maniacal. Now let's keep it on cautious for the purpose of this video. I don't want it to get too out of hand. And player name, so you can of course name your players. So I'm just going to go for an Anawultus, and empire name, I think we'll stay with that. And empire color, it's just useful to know what color you are. And starting species. Now this here is probably going to be the most important choice you're going to be making on this starting screen. The starting species, because each species has different properties and different advantages that we can go over. Okay, so let's just go over the drop down on all of these. Okay, well, not the drop down, the tooltip. The tooltip, that's what it's called. So these are the Chato. It gives some flavor text describing what they are: sessile crystalline entities which ride the animal Gormoshk. Prefer toxic planets. So if you've ever played Masters of Orion, you get the idea. There's different kinds of planets, and these generally prefer toxic planets. But in the late game, just giving you spoilers ahead of time, in the late game, that stuff doesn't matter that much anymore. Phototrophic metabolism, that has some bearing on specials that you can find on planets, but we're going to get into that later. Great research, that means that if you're going to research new technologies, they research about twice as fast as the average, which I guess would be humans. And bad defensive ground troops, so if you're getting attacked, your troops are half as effective. and bad offensive ground troops. If you're trying to attack somebody else on the ground, you're also half as effective. Broad planet tolerance can tolerate more types, which means that it's easier for you to start branching out on different types of planets other than toxic planets, and you can begin doing that earlier on in the game as opposed to some other cultures that might have some risks. So the Cray, let me just get the tooltip. Similar, nothing strange here. It's just generally some similar traits, but of course this one has the industry isn't very good, but the research is still pretty good. The Ixaw have a property called xenophobic, and xenophobic means that they can't stand living close to another species, so they don't like that. And they also start with, at the beginning of the game, they start with the ability to build concentration camps. What? Concentration camps in my game? Oh, that's very edgy. No. They are useful for certain reasons. That sounds weird, but trust me, it's not as bad as it sounds. Supply is also very important, and we're going to be talking about that in a minute. And I don't think there's any other unique things here to really worry about. Telepathy is something that plays into some technologies. But anyway, we're going to go with the standard humans. 100% industry, 100% research, average population, average supply, average defensive ground troops. So, pretty normal. So let's get right into it. AI player 6, that's fine. Now, this game does have a diplomacy system if you want to interact with the AIs, but as far as I know, it's very rudimentary. So currently the game is loading up everything. We're going to see how well things go. Here's the Empire's messages. Those are all windows that are important for various reasons. But it's... Oh, a big lag spike. I guess it's finally loading up. Here it comes. Here it comes. And here comes the load. Oh, I think it's loaded. Sort of. The computer's catching up to it. And here it comes. Come on. Man, if it crashes... okay, it's not going to crash. Okay. Information overload. You just started this game. You don't know what to do. Okay. So let's take a look here. Okay. This here is the turn you're on, and if you click it, you can advance to the next turn. Never ever do this on your first turn, because you probably have things to do, and you don't want to waste turns in this game, because it can really bite you back later on. So the game does give some information. It gives you lots of hints throughout the game. Very useful. The AI... Okay, we won't bother you, but if you don't leave us alone, you shall find us well prepared to defend yourselves. So most of the AIs are cautious here. So one thing that you're going to want to do, at least this early in the game, or at least at this version of the game, is you're immediately going to want to propose peace to everyone. I don't know if they've changed anything about how that works. Okay. One of them was willing to go to peace with us. Why do this? Well, you don't want to lose everything the moment you start out. So let's zoom in a bit. You can use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out just to zoom in. It's probably another control, but I don't know it, and mouse wheel works fine for me. And here is your home system. Your home system. It is in your color, and if you click on systems here, you can see this is Deep Space No Star. I just clicked on this system, and this rotating UI here tells you that you're in this that you're looking at this system. So you want to click on your home system to make sure you're there. And as you can see, the planet here is your home planet. It's got a few buildings on it. It's got the basic shipyard, which is important, and the orbital dry dock, the cultural archive, and the imperial palace. Everyone starts with these. And you may notice that these other planets are entirely uninhabited. And an important thing to do is to inhabit all the planets in your systems. And why would you do that? It's so that other people can't nig planets in your systems. They can't steal planets in your systems and then put troops on those planets and be really annoying later on in the game. So it's important to colonize all the planets in your systems. However, by looking at these planets, I can see that here is a button that says colonize. 1 and a -8. In other words, my population, if I were to colonize this planet, would eventually grow to -8. In other words, I can't actually hold on to this planet if I try to colonize it. Neither could I this one. In fact, this one's even worse. Neither could I this one, because this one's just at 0. But with some technology, we could make it work. And we're going to be talking about that later. Now here we have something unusual. This planet has something special on it. And that is a temporal anomaly. Increases research on this planet by 5 per population, which is quite a lot when focus is set to research. So what is the focus? What are they talking about when they say focus? That's this thing. On each planet, you have the ability to set the population to focus on one specific thing. So you can focus on industry, research, growth, or protection. Or at least that's what you can start out focusing on. There's other focuses later on, but these are the basic ones. So industry increases your industrial capacity on this planet so that you can produce more things such as spaceships or new buildings and things like that. Research allows you to research new technologies, which is a very big part of this game, and you don't want to get left behind on such things. Growth generally allows you to more rapidly increase the population of your planet. Now let's take a look at this planet. This planet's target population is at 20. In other words, we're not going to get any bigger than 20 on this planet. That's about the maximum value, numerical value for the number of people that we can put on this planet is a number of 20. Now, of course, for RP purposes, that doesn't mean 20 people. Of course, it's probably 20 billion or something like that. That's about how much this planet can sustain, a large Terran planet. So growth is probably something we're not going to want to go for, and protection increases your general defensiveness on this planet. And here we see that our planet has a shield on the planet, a planetary shield, some defense, and some troops. Now, what do all these things mean? Okay, this is the population, of course. This is happiness. So far, in this version of the game, it's not too big a problem. So it really isn't something you have to worry about. Infrastructure is also not really something you have to worry about a lot. Industry is something you're going to have to worry about, and as you can see here, it is something we're going to have to be worrying about pretty soon. And research and supply. What is supply? Okay, I'll tell you what supply is. Supply is your ability to supply things within a certain distance of your planets. So this has a supply value of 2. And the supply chain can be seen as a sort of thickened line rather than the normal thin lines that you can see here in between here. This one is a bit thicker. So we have supply range here. Now, of course, whatever things are, what is it useful for? Okay. your production and your research is what one would call global, but in this case it's interstellar. In other words, it's not all your planets researching on things individually. They all are researching for something commonly, and all your planets are pooling their production in order to build things at the same time, in order to get the same things built. Now, of course, if your planets are too far apart, then they're going to be outside of the supply range, and the industry or the production from those planets aren't going to reach each other, which means those two planets are going to have to work on separate things so that you don't waste your production. In addition to that, your spaceships, here are these things, this symbol here implies spaceships. Your spaceships, so we have, let's see, we've got 4 spaceships. We start out with 2 scouts and a frigate, as well as a colony ship that we can't use in this system. But they have something called fuel. And within your supply range, they're going to refuel. If they're outside of your supply range, they're not going to refuel unless they encounter derelicts that have fuels on them. And those are some random events you can have. So supply is very important. And if you're a new player, do not ever underestimate the value of supply. In addition to that, you have trade, which isn't really relevant in this version of the game. And again, the shield, the planet has a shield, and what this means is that when an enemy fleet goes into your system and they want to attack your planet, they have to shoot through your shields. They have to do your shield's worth of damage before they can actually begin to take down your defense. And what the defense does is that it deals damage to the spaceships in orbit. So it's, I suppose, surface to space defense, and also orbital satellites shooting at things. And they're all protected by your planetary shield. And if your shield goes down, the people attacking your planet can destroy those. But in order to actually capture your planet, they have to defeat your ground troops. So this has a maximum value of 13.3. Because of an unknown reason, it's actually going to tick to stay at that. So in order to capture a planet, you have to put in more ground troops than they have defending it. And finally, we've got detection range. Each planet and spaceship has its own detection range, but you also have an empire-wide detection strength. And this can be seen by this circle that radiates out from the planet that shows you your sensor range, how far you can see things. So, for example, the reason we know what's here is because it's in our sensor range, and that's how we know what's in all these places. But we don't know what's in here, and we don't know what's in there because it's never been in our sensor range. Hopefully that has been a good explanation. So again, at the top we have those same statistics. We've got production, research. This is the number of ships we have. And this is the number of people we've got, and this is a detection strength. And everyone else has those things as well. Okay. And up here, we've got messages, which is this. This is the messages. Actually, no, that's a sit rep. That's the messages, sorry. Messages, the situation report. The messages is for diplomacy and also, I suppose, for when you're with other players. And the situation report tells you a summary of things that have happened in the turn, or in between turns. This is the empires pop-up, which tells you things about other empires and your diplomatic status. For example, this peace sign indicates you're at peace. And This crossed swords indicates that you're at war. And then you've got objects which tells you all the planets and things, but that's really not important unless you're really searching for something specific. And then we've got research, production, design. Design is very important. It allows you to design your own spaceships so that you can expand and fight other civilizations and protect yourself from other civilizations. Graphs are useful for showing you what you have. But it's the first turn, so it's not really going to show us anything. And that's the pedia, which also gives information, which is very important. I do use it a lot, even though I've played quite a bit. And that's just the menu for saving, loading, changing options, options relating to video, audio, UI, galaxy map, objects list, colors, and stuff. And you can also resign. Whew. Hopefully that has been very useful. And this just tells you the system-wide statistics of this region. So let's actually get to playing the game. So let's close the messages. I don't think that's going to be very important right now. Situation report I can leave at there. I'm going to be moving my fleets, but the first thing you're probably going to want to do is think about where you want to go research-wise. Okay, let me zoom out here. So this is the research tree. Now, this is one way to view the research tree, but I actually like to view it in a different way. Let's see. Complete? No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for... oh, there we go. Okay, I like to look at the whole tree. I like to plan out where we're going to go. And I think this is very important to do, because as you may see here, or as you will eventually recognize here, because these things probably mean nothing to you if you've never played the game, you can have different types of hulls for spaceships and go different paths. For example, you've got the asteroid hull, and it's a whole tree of asteroid-related hulls and armor platings for your spaceships. And then you've got the robotic, and then you've got organic, and they all run parallel to each other throughout the game. So ideally, you are going to want to pick one path to go down or two paths to go down, depending on your playstyle. Now, this playstyle is going to be influenced by a number of things. But for now what we need is to get research and more production. We need more production. It's very important to get production. And right now, we're not investing research in anything. So, let's have a click. Let's see, what does this give us? This is algorithmic elegance. And if you get algorithmic elegance, it increases the research on all planets. Focus on research by 0.1 per population. That's very good. Robotic production helps with planets that have an industry focus. Microgravity increases industry on +5 on all industry-focused colonies in a system with an asteroid belt, outposts, or colonies. So it's very important to read what's on these, because you might think, oh, +5 on all industry-focused colonies, but wait, you need an asteroid belt. So that's very important. Nascent artificial increases research on all planets +2, and increases industry on all planets +5. So adaptive automation is probably a very good thing to go for early on. So you're going to want to go for that. So I'm going to just leg it right to adaptive automation. In addition to that, we're going to want to increase our supply range, but I'm actually thinking of increasing the maximum population. because that allows us to have a greater amount of production and research because there's more people to do it. And we're going to increase the supply range with orbital construction. Increase the supply range by 1, which is very important. And I'm just looking at the first level of research on all these things. Genetic engineering is a prerequisite. A prerequisite technology is a technology that doesn't actually give you anything directly, but it leads to something that will give you something. Okay, and all the other basic technologies are covered. Okay. So the next stage is you can have industrial centers. Okay. We're going to focus on that later. For now, we're just going to have this here. And there's concentration camps up there if you want them. But we're not going to talk about that because right now we're just talking about the basics. Now production. To go to an area that has unused production, you just click on the exclamation point, and there you are. We are on the only planet we have, which of course is the only planet where we're going to have that. And what we could do, there's a number of different things that we could do. Evacuate system slowly reduces the population on a system, and you don't want to do this with your home system. That's a dumb idea. A ComSat, unarmed satellite that can trigger planetary defenses even against passive enemies, but otherwise does nothing except to get in the way of enemy fire. Okay. And so we're not going to be building that because there's really no reason. A colony base, we can't really colonize anything. And by the way, these things that look roundish here, it is a specific type of ship hull. It's the colony base hull, and it is a hull designed to create a colony on another planet in system. It cannot move between systems or move quickly in system, and consequently has only one internal slot. Internal slot, of course, being this here, that you can put stuff in. For example, you can put a colony in there, or you can put an outpost module in there, or a fuel tank, which I would never put in there because this can't go interstellar anyway, so what's the point? Okay, just so that you know what we're talking about here. Colony ship, which we already have one of those, and we don't actually have anything to colonize in sight, so I don't really see a reason to build one at the moment anyway. A cruiser, a frigate, which are military spaceships. A corvette is another military spaceship, and troop ships. We don't have anything to conquer, so there's no real reason to produce troop ships. We already have 2 scouts, so I don't really see a reason to produce a scout right now, because if I'm going to produce another scout, I might do it when I have higher technology, or if one of my scouts gets killed. So, what are we going to spend our production on? Well, here's an idea. We can build an outpost base. Now, what is an outpost? What is an outpost? Okay, this is an outpost. Outpost modules allow you to establish unmanned stations. These may be placed on uninhabitable planets. They have no population and normally produce no resources, but they provide vision, create supply lines when the right tech is researched, and outposts can be upgraded to colonies. So an outpost is a very great way for me to occupy these other planets, so if somebody else comes around, they can't just steal them off me. So I'm going to create one outpost base, and right now that's really all our production can hold. I'm going to hold on research focus because humans like research focus. Let's see. Yeah, preferred focus selected. Humans like to research. Every culture has a preferred focus, and if you are on that preferred focus, they'll just be generally happier. And okay, so I've done that, and there's no real reason to do anything else with that. So let me just get out of the production window, and to do that, we could just click on production, and we're out back to the main window. And now we're looking at our ships here, at our spaceships. So each one of these is organized into a fleet, and when you click on the fleet, it shows you which spaceships are in that fleet. Now, these are just one-ship fleets, and I don't see a reason to consolidate them because I'm going to send them all different directions anyway. So I'm going to send a scout fleet out there, and I'm going to send this one down there. Or, no, down here, because the sensor range will allow me to see this planet. And I'm going to keep everything else right here because I don't really have a reason to send anything else anywhere else. So, that concludes the first turn. So what should you have done in the first turn? In the first turn, you should have picked your production, picked your research, and set out your scout ships. So here we go. The turn is over, and what do we see? We discovered a couple of planetary systems. This one has a small desert on it. This one has a tiny infernal planet on it. None of these things are things that we can colonize. However, it is good for us to know that they are present near us, so that we'll be able to know. We'll be able to deal with that. I'm going to go down here, and hopefully we'll be able to see what's on this planet, and perhaps we can expand in that direction then. Okay. And here's a useful hint. You may want to hold off on researching psionics until your empire includes a species with telepathy. Why? Because psionics, what it does is its research cost of this technology is greatly reduced for empires that includes a telepathy species. So you want to stay frugal, and that's why you shouldn't waste your time on that. Anyway, you are here, and nothing to see there, so let's just move on here. And what do we have on this planet? Let's take a look. Oops, a little bit of lag there. Nothing that we can use. And I'm just going to send you out there. And here we are. Here's a random events at Tarawa. Ships were refueled from the residual supply found in an abandoned derelict tanker. So that's a sort of random event that you can find that fuels your spaceships. So these early turns, we're not going to accomplish very much. Oh, and here we see something. Here we have a planet that is already inhabited. And what is it inhabited by? It is inhabited by ancient guardians. What are ancient guardians? Right-click on them. Pedia, look up ancient guardians. Ancient guardians, constructed by precursor civilization eons ago. They have a robotic metabolism, will self-destruct when conquered, leaving an outpost owned by the conqueror behind. So you can't actually conquer them and bring them into your empire, but they have an enormous amount of planetary shields, so good luck trying to conquer that early game. And they have good defensive ground troops, 10 per population, so this is going to rise to 132 eventually. The planet itself has this special called Native Elarium, boosting the production or lithic growth significantly. Lithic metabolism species inhabiting this planet will have the maximum population boosted by planet size. And that is why these metabolisms matter. It's because you have these specials that tell you things regarding these, that give you bonuses, I mean. And here we have asteroids, a tiny infernal planet. And why do we suddenly have all this knowledge of all these planets? What happened? At space, information on the area was obtained from an abandoned derelict scout. At Tau Alpha, information on the area was obtained from an abandoned derelict scout. So, lucky me, I actually have information on all these planets, and I don't actually have to go and explore them directly. But let's see. This is a Terran planet, but it's actually quite far away, so my supply isn't going to reach there. But if I build an outpost here, it might. There's a gas giant, some asteroids, a large radiated planet, This planet has a huge inferno and is guarded by a space monster. This planet has a medium ocean planet. This system, This system has a tiny Terran planet, and it's actually relatively close. And we're seeing these things. Okay, medium ocean and small desert. But we'll be able to colonize these planets relatively soon with some technology. Now, what we're seeing over here is a different color, and that's because it's from another player, specifically the AI in this instance. But what we're going to want to do is, of course, conquer all the way over here so that we can block this system and prevent the red player here from moving into our zone. Now, of course, we're actually peaceful with them, so it's not a problem. But so we're really going to have to worry about the principality up here. But as for colonizing a planet, this planet seems like the perfect candidate at the moment to colonize. So I'm going to send out my colony fleet. By looking at this, it looks like it'll take 3 turns to get there, and luckily I have 3 turns of fuel, so it's not going to be a problem. It's not out of my range, and I'll be able to get there relatively easily. So let's take a look just to make sure there isn't anything else that's better to colonize. No, not really. So that's where we'll colonize. And we'll end turn here. I'll just close that off. And as you can see, all these planets have a sort of gray barring over them, and that's because we don't actually have active sensor range on these planets, which means that something may have changed since the last time we saw the planets. It doesn't mean that something did change, it just means that something may have changed and we wouldn't know because we don't actually have any vision on those planets. For example, this planet might now have a space monster over it that could have moved from here or here, but we can't really tell. And we'll go another turn, and whoop-de-doo, we are having unused production. And that is an outpost base. So I'm thinking we should probably make an outpost ship. And why an outpost ship? Because we're going to need to expand toward useful planets, like Alturf here. So I'm thinking of putting an outpost on this tiny inferno planet, and then using that to piggyback down to Alturf. Now, of course, with the current technology, it's not really going to give us good supply line, but it's still going to be useful, because this planet will allow us to put a decent amount of population on it. So finish the turn here, and here we go. We have the ability to place an outpost. Now, where should I place the outpost? On a planet that has a special? That is a wise idea. A barren planet that is very hostile? Probably not the preferable choice. And this planet, which I can't colonize right now, but I will probably be able to colonize soon, depending on which technology I go for. I'm actually going to place an outpost here, so that when the time comes, I can upgrade it to an actual colony. Meanwhile, I can go here, and I can colonize this tiny Terran planet, and colonize it with 1 population that will eventually grow up to 3. And, of course, the maximum size of the population that you could put on a planet is dependent on, of course, the size of a planet. And since it's a tiny planet, we're going to have a tiny population. Going to colonize there. There we go. And let's see if our supply line is long enough to link up. It is. And here we see. Here we see what I was talking about. There's a thicker line that's in our color that moves between all these planets. And that's our supply line. Now, if somebody puts a colony here, they're going to disrupt our supply line, and that's not going to be very wholesome. Now, I'm going to set this planet to an industry focus so that I can begin building more spaceships and more buildings faster, because we're not really getting by with our 10 production that we have on our home planet. And as we can see, this planet is now ours. It could be upgraded to a colony, but it's not advantageous to do so at the moment. Let's take a check on our research. We are at nascent artificial intelligence, and as you can see here, our research has been improved by our technology of algorithmic elegance. So that's going to accelerate the rate at which we're going to be doing research. Now, another thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually design a spaceship. Now, there's a number of different things that you want to think about when designing a spaceship. And let me just show you all the different things that could potentially be put on a spaceship. Now, we can't actually put all of these onto a spaceship, but because some of these things can only be put on game-generated spaceships. But all of these things are things that you'll find on a spaceship. So let's take a look at the different hulls. So these are the basic hulls. We haven't researched anything. So we've got the colony base hull. We're not going to use that for an interstellar spaceship ever, because that would be a very bad idea. We have the basic small hull, which has one thing called an external slot. Let's narrow things down, and we could probably put a gun on it. So 3 damage here, or 3 damage here. Now, I would actually prefer to put a flak cannon if we're going to use this. The reason being that here's the mass driver. It does 3 damage per shot, and in each attack it attacks once. It shoots once. Meanwhile, the flak cannon does 1 damage per shot, but it shoots 3 times. Now, of course, if a spaceship has shields, then you're going to want bigger guns, otherwise it's not going to scratch right through the shields. But if your enemy has fighters, then a flak cannon is very important so that you can destroy fighters. But let's take a look at some other hulls. You've got the medium hull, 1 internal, 2 external. Internally, right now the only thing we could really put is an extra fuel tank. We could put troops, but we don't really want to use a combat spaceship for dropping troops, because that means that it'll land on the planet and we'll lose it. So we don't want that due to the way the game mechanics work. And here it is, the basic large hull. Now, personally, I generally tend to go with the biggest thing I can get. So how would I deal with this? I wouldn't put an extra fuel tank on there, because I don't think I need an extra fuel tank. Because right now I'm not really aggressive in the game, and I'm not really going to be going too far outside of my territory. So putting an extra fuel tank on there is just going to make it that much more expensive to produce. But what I am going to put on this is some armor. Let's put some armor, a gun, and a flak cannon. There we go. Or should I put the gun here? And you can think about all the different ways you want to make it look. Just RP it hard. There you go. Firepower around the bridge to defend it from fighters crashing into there. We don't want to have what happened in that one Star Wars movie. Oops, that's a faux pas. They don't want to hear that. And you can name the spaceship. I generally don't put a description on it. I'll just name this a X class, and I guess I'll call this a cruiser. And there you go. And once you've done that, you should be able to come on. Okay, we need to pick the right planet, because we need the right buildings to build this, which is a basic shipyard, because each spaceship requires certain buildings in order to be built. So we've got the cruiser MS, which is, oh, come on, where is it? Cruiser MS, there it is, which has standard armor plating, an extra fuel tank, a flat cannon, and a mass driver. So it's essentially the same thing, except it has a fuel tank, but mine doesn't have a fuel tank. 76 production cost versus, where is it? 77 production cost. I didn't think it'd be that small a difference, but oh boy. I'm really starting to regret my ideology here, but you know what? I'm going to add one of these because we're going to need spaceships eventually in order to accomplish various things. Now let's take a look. There's something very specific that I'm looking for. I'm not finding it though. Some asteroids here, but that's not very useful. This has an ocean and a desert. Gas giant, radiated ocean. Let's take a look. Olympus asteroids. Okay. Now, what was I looking for? I was looking for a planet within reasonable inhabitation that has an asteroid belt in the same system. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one. And you know what that means? Well, as for the playstyle that I would be taking in this series, that means that I'm not going to be manufacturing any asteroid-based spaceships, because I simply don't have the resources available to do so. And these are things you have to think about. This is what you have to think about before you decide, oh yeah, I'm going to go down asteroid spaceships. But if I were able to build asteroid spaceships, let's just put unavailable on. What I would eventually work towards, here goes, oh boy. Here it goes. Let's go unavailable. And we've got bomber hangars. And what's the other thing? Okay, that is launch bays. Okay, here. I'm going to show you what exactly I was thinking of doing. So here it goes. We put those there. Put those there. So what I'm doing right now is I'm putting these bombers in here, and each bomber hangar has 2 bombers in it, and each of these launch bays can launch 2. So I need to balance that out so that I can launch 4 bombers. And bombers have a damage of 5. However, if you get technology, you can upgrade that to be a lot higher. And what else do I want? I want something very specific. What is this? Spinal antimatter cannon. There we go. And ideally, is this what I'm looking for? Strength 40, 30, 30. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Okay. There we have it. Just put it all on there. Put it all on there. Man, this thing's going to be really tough. A tough nut to crack. And the final thing, what else do I want on there? I guess just another armor. There you go. That's the kind of spaceship that I would build. It's got a lot of fighters and a lot of armor. Very tough. In the late game, you can have spaceships that heal themselves relatively quickly, so it's good to have spaceships that have a lot of armor on them. Look at that total damage. Estimated combat strength 2,563. Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream. That's the dream that I aim for. But anyway, that's enough for now, I think. So I'll just save the game. What do I save it as? Remove kebab. I was doing some hard memeing. No offense. And here we go. We'll just save this as tutorial. Misspell it, of course. Okay. Tutorial. And I think that's all that we'll have for now. And I will be seeing you all next time if I choose to make a sequel to this. But hopefully this has been informative to some degree if you don't know how to play FreeOrion. It's a very fun game. You can do a lot of different things. I only showed you the very basic, the first couple turns, some important things to do. There's probably some people that have a lot better schemes for which technologies to go for early on. I was just doing a standard get what's good for you. But thank you all for watching, and I will be seeing you all next time on Wiltos over and out.